Hayden, happy back here fresh from Paris, where you picked up your silver medal. Many congratulations. How are you feeling about all that now? Like a little bit of time to reflect on it. Is it a positive for you or a negative for you at the moment that it was a silver?
Yeah, like I look back at the race and I'm like proud of the way I raced. I'm proud of the way I executed the race, the preparation, everything. Like I did all I could. So like I can't be like, yeah, of course it wasn't the color I wanted it to be, but I feel like I've just got to look back a little bit and just like the preparation, as I said, was perfect, and the race tactic that we went for was what we wanted, and it was going very, very well. And that's the one thing we didn't prepare for was potential change of. We were prepared for the change of date, which was absolutely fine, but it was more so the change of time, which we weren't prepared for. And just like the extreme weather that happened on that day, we didn't do any heat training. And that was the only flaw I think we had in the plan, in the preparation. But other than that, like, yeah, I'm really proud of the way I raced and stoked how, I can go back and get an upgrade from Tokyo. So I can't be disappointed with that, and being so close and fading there at the end, like going back to that heat was a huge factor. We look back and it clearly was just body core temperature increase, and it was once your body core increases, you get into a bit of a sticky situation. And I looked at my watch and I was running about 3:30s in that last sector, and then I think Alex just continued to keep his pace, and that was enough to bridge that 15-second gap. So yeah, it was just one of those things that we have to look back on. And the only what if part for me would be maybe we should have done more heat training. But then again, look back and it was like, we're meant to race at 8 a.m. So, and I think everyone else was in the same position. Some people may have had more exposure to heat, where I took the risk to altitude and stayed up in a bit more of a cooler environment. So that was just one of those things. And I guess have to go back to LA and see if I can get the full set
With some heat training.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. LA could be hot, especially on that time. So we'll plan a little bit differently and see how it goes.
So I'm really curious, like what's the reaction been like? Because it's a strange one, really, isn't it? Because I would say winning an Olympic silver medal is a truly remarkable achievement. It's an incredible achievement, and yet you're obviously at the very top of your game and your sport. You are, by your nature, a winner. And so I imagine a lot of people have approached you with that kind of similar question that I did to start with. I kind of asked that deliberately to kind of gauge a bit of a reaction, because there's a strange thing, right? That you might be really proud of your achievement because you go, okay, I can see all the work I've put into this. I performed my best that I could. But other people are saying, is it disappointing, rather than the big hug and the big congratulations? Have you found that? Has that been weird if you have?
Yeah, I think actually the standard thing is just the first thing people say is that race was unbelievable. Like they didn't even ask about congratulations, how do you feel on second or anything. And I think that's just been the biggest reaction. It's just like, man, that race was epic. Like first or second, like who cares? Like that race was like, you gave it everything, and everyone saw that I gave it everything. And it was just like, I think just being where the race was located and how the race planned out and how it finished, like I think everyone was just like, wow, that was something, which was, that's a really cool, like, positive thing. And you could see that I just gave it everything, but just didn't have enough in the end. And going back to like how I felt, like I've just been, I feel like I've answered the way that I've answered, like just like yourself, like just proud of the way I raced. Like that was the race plan, and it's very rare, especially at Olympics, let alone at race, that you prepare so much and everyone on that start line prepares to win. We don't want to, no one wants to be lining up and making a number. They want to win the race, and there's always a chance when you're on that start line, and that's how I looked at it in Tokyo. Like there's always an opportunity to win the race. I was maybe at best a top 10 potential, and you just got to give it everything. And to do it twice in 8 years, I feel it's really like it's extremely hard to do. You know, some of the greats in Olympics have never got a medal before, and I've just got to look back to that. You know, it's so hard to perform on a single day, and the Olympic race is always extremely different to like a World Series race or a SuperTri race. Like, I feel like SuperTri racing and World Triathlon racing, it's very like you go with panache and you just go with the flow, and it's a different course, but so much emotions ride on the Olympics that it's just a different level of nerves, it's a different level of preparation. You know, you can underdo it, you can overdo it. It's just so hard to balance being at a perfect condition for one race, and then to execute it is a whole different thing as well. So to do it, you know, to execute it twice is, you know, it's a pretty awesome achievement.
Oh, absolutely, it is an incredible achievement. But I'm curious, in Paris, when you got to that start line, you kind of stood there. It's the middle of the day. It's really hot. Was at that point, was there any part of you that was already thinking, blimey, this is kind of not what I was expecting here?
Yeah, like I was expecting potentially a day or two maybe delay, but I wasn't expecting it to be at 10 a.m. So I was actually, when we got told it was 10 a.m, I was actually a little bit frustrated. More frustrated that the last 3 months before that race, I was in altitude by myself, and I was getting up every single day at 5:45, just to get used to getting up and going to bed at 7:40. And to do that in Andorra, it's very hard because it doesn't get dark till 10. So it was really hard to get into that mentality of getting up and getting to sleep within those time zones. And you know, after a while, it was relatively easy, but to train like every single day, and especially having an intensity day at 8 a.m, so always getting up, warming up at 7:30, then starting my workout at 8 was the last 2-3 months, and I made sure that my body was dialed for that time. And then it got changed to 10, which, like, it doesn't really matter, like I was still training between 8 till 12, so it was absolutely fine. So the date, the time of training was absolutely, like, it wasn't an issue, and the time of the race was not an issue, but it was just the heat that I feel like just derailed me a little bit. But I didn't really think about the heat too much. I just still went to my plan, and if it worked, it worked, but if it didn't, it didn't. And yeah, obviously got to the end, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to go, but you know, for a glimpse there, it was, you know, working to an absolute T. And I felt like if it wasn't 8 a.m, it could have been a different story. I potentially might have been able to hold on, but then you look back at it again, and then, you know, Alex might have been able to go with that little bit of a pace increase at the first sector. So the race could have been completely different.
So in terms of how that race played out, then just talk us through a little bit of like how it felt in the moment as you came through the swim, and then you got out onto the bike and you kind of started, you know, moving up, and you were sort of placing yourself quite well there. I think you must be feeling pretty positive. Yeah,
like, you know, coming out of the swim, I feel like that swim was always going to be a flick of the coin. Like, there were some amazing swimmers that were out behind me out of the swim, but there was some kind of, you know, guys that normally aren't in the front group were in the front group, and it just goes to show that positioning and reading the water was super important. And you know, I think I was 50 seconds behind to the front person, but I was only 35 seconds behind the guy that was at the end of that group. So in reality, it wasn't like a terrible swim, but I ideally would like to have been closer. But you know, I felt like I got pretty beaten up going down. Obviously got like a bit of a big blue lip there for like a week.
Caught in a pack? Or
yeah, you just get.
Was it a bit rough and
it was pretty. I think it was pretty rough, just because it was the way the current was going and how fast it was going, but just the nerves as well. And people get a bit anxious and a bit nervous, and like you could see there was like 10 violations in the swim sector, which was on the penalty board. So you knew it was
a lot of grabbing.
A lot, yeah. So, and I was just unfortunate while that's part of racing. Like, I was just a victim of that, and you know, it's not the first time it's happened, but we all know that's just part of the racing, and that's just how it is. So, like, I wasn't disappointed where I came out. We're in a relatively good group, and we had a team tactic we were with the Team New Zealand at the start, and we were catching, and I did 2 or 3 laps. In reality, it was maybe a 10-minute effort, which wasn't a lot. But then that third lap, Dylan came back and pulled an absolute move and got us back onto the third, fourth lap. So I used not a lot of energy at the start, but probably just a little bit more than I really wanted to. But that was in the race. It was in one of the race plans. To use a little bit of energy to obviously make that gap, and we planned for that. And if we didn't, and if we're in the front group, obviously reserve. And I was just we got to the front, and then it was just trying to keep reserved and keeping those legs fresh. Because I knew it was going to be hot, and I was a little bit concerned about that. And then got onto the run, and I think a lot of people thought I went out way too hard, but I was keeping my pace. I went at
You're watching your hand.
Yeah.
Were you kind of keeping an eye? Did you have a pace?
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do.
Exactly. Yeah. I think in an Olympic race, you get very excited, and the adrenaline pumps, and
impossible not to, right?
Yeah.
It's crowds. It's the culmination of all.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I just made sure, really made sure I wasn't going out too hard. So, I went out at 2:45, and I was really happy with that. And I don't feel like if I went out at sub 2:40 under, I'd be a little bit concerned. But 2:45, it's nothing. That's great. And then the next K was 2:47, so I was perfect, kind of in that range where I wanted to be. And when I made the move, I didn't really make a big surge. It was just I wanted to keep the pace consistent, and so I went to the front and just kept the pace consistent. And the next K was a 2:50, and that's when I kind of got the gap, and I just amplified that pressure on the second lap. And little did I know I had a 10-second gap, and actually the third lap was my most reserved lap. I really wanted to reserve because I knew I had to pull a big last lap. So I actually relaxed a little bit into that third lap, running 3:05s or something, actually really conservative, just to relax a little bit, knowing that I have to go. If I keep a 15-second gap, I was doing some calculations in my head. I was like, if I run a 3-minute pace, I'll be fine. I know that Alex will have to close in 2:55s, 2:50s, and the way the heat was going, it was going to be fair play if he caught me at that pace. But coming to that last lap, I tried to get up, and my body just didn't respond at all. And I was at that point, I was now fighting to actually get to the finish line. I started to see 3:10s, 3:15s, and that last 1500 when I started to see 3:20, 3:30s, I was just I was definitely in trouble. And I didn't want to look back because I knew you couldn't really hear where Alex was or anything. You couldn't hear where anyone was, and I just made sure I just looked straight, head down, and just try and fight the body and try and get through this really hard patch. And did the UE, and then I saw him, and I tried to accelerate, but I was done. My finish line was at 9.5K, and that's all I had. And when he passed, I tried to go, but I just had absolutely nothing. And I knew that it's the last time I ran like that. I had COVID, but this one, I was just completely depleted. I just had nothing left. And I think at the end of the day, that's how you want to finish a race. You want to be, you want to know that you gave it everything. And I think when we crossed that finish line, it was actually it was a massive relief, because you still got a medal, which is awesome. Obviously, that's not the one that you wanted, but it was either you get a medal, a gold one, a silver one, or a bronze one, or you get nothing. And then I feel like that's a lot of disappointment. And that's a massive thing as well. When you cross the finish line, there's guys that are absolutely stoked with a top 10, their best ever result, and they're absolutely proud of that. And some people do come to the race and just say, I want to get a top 10, that'd be awesome, top 15 even. But you see the others, and there is just so much more disappointment on an Olympic finish line. There's guys there that I know that they didn't have races they wanted to, and that's a hard one to swallow. And I feel like I've never kind of obviously I've felt that disappointment in other races, but I've never felt it at an Olympic race, which I'm really fortunate about. But it must be heavy. You sacrifice 4-8 years plus to have the result you really want to not get it. It's pretty tough, and it's mentally hard to bounce back from that. You can, it's like a world champs. you win a world champs or you don't do well in a world champs, there's always another one in a year after, a year after, year after. But, and people that are in the best shape of their life maybe only get 3 opportunities at max to be at the finest form to get an Olympic medal. So I think triathlon is a hard one to perform at. We're not like swimming, we're not like gymnastics. We don't get, an opportunity to get 10 medals at Olympics. We get 1. Now we obviously get 2, but the individual is our most important one, and we only get 1 opportunity every 4 years, and that's tough. And yeah, as I said, like if you don't perform, it's mentally it's hard, and it's sad to see guys that that you race every single day, and it's really hard to see them just be so sad and disappointed because they just didn't have the race they wanted. And yeah, that's just the way the Olympics goes.
So on that run there, was it that you it's like sometimes you can feel it, right? You can feel the shutters beginning to come down. They don't come down dramatically, and then other times they just like from like that, and it's like, oh heck.
Yeah.
Was that what kind of was that feeling? Was it a gradual feeling, or did it come on very suddenly?
It came on pretty suddenly because I started that last lap and I felt a little bit of a jump in pace, and I was like, sweet. And then I got around like the 1500 to go, and it was like the left turn, and it was like you're on the cobbles, you turn left, and then you're down the back straight, and then you turn left, and then it's like a false flat going up, and I kind of tripped up a little bit on my stride, and I'm like, wow, like I'm in trouble. Like that was about a K to go, and I was like, shit, I'm in trouble here. And I think a lot of there was people on the sideline. They probably saw me like fumble a little bit, and I was just like my legs were just like concrete. Like I just couldn't move, and I knew he was coming, and I was like, man, it's a K to go. That's how I thought it was. Like it's a K to go. It's 3 minutes. It's 4 years of preparation for 3 minutes. Just give it everything, and yeah, I just couldn't do it. Like I just had nothing left.
So when he came past, you obviously said that you tried to go, and quickly it was obvious that you weren't going to be able to. At that moment in time, what's going through your head? Because were you at that point thinking, like, kind of a feeling of disappointment that I'm so close, but kind of it's not happened, or did you switch into, hang on a minute, there's still a silver on the line here, and I've got to get over that line still from where I am? Yeah,
I felt like there was that disappointment of like I just let him go. Like maybe if I dug in a little bit more, I could have gone with him, but I honestly don't. I keep looking back at that same spot, and it was really ironic because that's where my whole family was sitting, and they saw the pass, and like you just felt it, just like man, it was so close. And I look back, I know how far Leo was quite far behind, so I wasn't too worried about about losing the silver. But I would say I was, if I pushed even more, I felt like I might have gone into maybe like a Johnny Brownlee and Hawatako, Cozumel grand final, and then I don't even know if I would have been able to finish. So there was a point of, do I risk putting my body on the absolute line and depleting myself and collapsing 200 meters before the line, or do I just say no, that's all I've got? And yeah, I think it was the right decision, or I could have lost everything in one blink. But I gave it absolutely everything, and it was pretty tough. Just getting the pass right in front of my whole team. I was like, oh man, was it just so close? But it was just is what it is.
What did they say when you saw them afterwards?
Oh, I think it was the exact same thing. Everyone was like, wow. I think a lot of people jumped the gun on a post. I think there was so many people that posted you're Olympic champion, and I was just like, oh fuck, so many people did it, and I was just like, oh man. But yeah, I think they were just proud of the way I raced, and even a lot of the guys on course were I've never seen someone give it to Alex like that. Even guys that weren't racing, they were just like, man, that was that they've never ever seen anything like it, and Alex is the best one. He is the best 10K runner on the course, and to do what I did and gave it a good crack, I'll never kind of die not knowing I tried. So this is one of those things.
Yeah, and I think I don't know whether this is a feeling you've had or not, but I think a lot of people would also say that what you did, what Alex did, your rivalry, and how it's played out in the last, well, it's been a little while, but particularly the last few months when there's been so much spotlight, is growing the sport hugely, and it's doing huge things for raising awareness of triathlon, getting people excited. Every sport needs rivalries, especially individual sports. Have you had a sense of that, of like this kind of greater attention? The Olympics naturally brings attention, but it feels like you and Alex actually are driving something that's further and more than short course racing has had before, because this rivalry is really captivating people.
Yeah, I think like if you look straight at the beginning, like obviously you had the Brownlees and the Javier battles, and that kind of propelled triathlon into some sort of space. And then, you know, there had to be, I think, someone else that had to continue that flag and continue a rivalry where it just, you know, projects our sport into kind of the world of sport. You know, we're quite a young sport, so to have these rivalries and to have this camaraderie, or to have these like epic battles, I think it's great. And like, you know, for us, I'm always waking up trying to beat Alex, but these guys trying to beat me and trying to beat Alex as well. So it just propels the sport forward. And you know, when Alex and I get faster in the swim, everyone else gets faster on the swim. When we get faster on the bike, everyone else gets faster on the bike, and the runs times get faster, and everyone gets closer there, and it just continues to make our sport a little bit more professional. Like, you know, I've been, you know, living in Andorra for the last 2 years, and it's funny just like, you know, training with the guys like Cam Worth and just seeing how professional cyclists are and how dialed they are with their teams and their nutrition and just everything. And it just goes to show how young our sport is and how unprofessional we are, and the effects of training. And I feel like I've tried to adopt a lot of what the cyclists have been doing in the last few years, and I feel like that has like hugely improved my me as an athlete. And I feel like you know, Alex being in Loughborough and having all the high performance tech, and he's got an amazing team around him. Like, I feel like that's also propelling him into like the next kind of era of triathlon. I think everyone else also, you know, like before it was all guesswork for triathlon with nutrition and balance of training, and now you can just put in a calculator or into AI and then it will just do it for you, kind of thing. So, you know, it's technology that's progressing the sport, but it's also the way that athletes are now executing training and how they're executing their lifestyle to become better athletes, I feel, is what's propelling triathlon.
Do you think I would imagine I can imagine the answer, but do you feel like you've had any real time to kind of process this? Because like knowing you for a few years, I'd say that a lot of people perceive you as kind of like a fiery, hot-headed racer, but actually, you know, when you're not on the course, you're very articulate, very thoughtful, and even the way you're talking about the heat and kind of, okay, the water quality, it got postponed, then it ended up late. There's a lot of what ifs there, and things could have been different, and that naturally, as a human, it takes some time to process that and kind of come to terms with, okay, those are things that just happen. There's nothing I can do, but that maybe had an effect. Like, do you feel like you've had time to really get your head around that yet, or do you feel like that's a process that you kind of are almost looking forward to doing at some point?
Yeah, like I feel that like I'm pretty relaxed going into racing. Like I feel like my race attitude within racing is completely different to the person I am outside of like training. Like, as I said, like I'm very, like, when I'm training, I'm there to do the work, and I want to do it, you know, extremely well. And I think that's why I train by myself in some ways. Like, yeah, of course, it's great to have people push you, but also I like doing the work by myself and really getting it done correctly and properly and with passion and just being completely dialed. But then there's the other side with me being obviously quite fiery and explosive and being vocal within the race, keeping the race dynamics alive and keeping the sport, I guess, fun to watch. I feel I don't want to get onto a start line and be someone that's going to be sitting in the back and not doing any work. I really want to win the race with a swim, bike, run attitude where I execute and push the pace and make it fun and make it exciting, and that's what we train for. We train extremely hard to make racing easy. So I'm like, well, let's kind of let's exploit that and train even harder and race as hard as we train, because there's some points where you're into a race and you're a little bit behind, so you have to be aggressive, you have to be explosive, and you have to get back into the race. And I think a lot of athletes look at the race where you've got to swim very well, and then if you don't swim well and you're in the third bike group, there's a sense of giving up. But I feel like for me, I've always been in that position where I'm a little behind, so I'm always just fighting to get back into the race, and I won't stop chasing until I get to the finish line or get to that next group. So I feel like it's always going to be a part of how I race, and I personally don't want that to change. I always want to be aggressive and be out the front, and looking at how I digest things as well. It's always mentally hard. I'm a pretty when I'm as I said, I train by myself, so I'm a pretty reserved person when I'm chilling by myself, just my girlfriend's company and just people outside of triathlon. I like that company and stuff, and it's always overwhelming to come off an Olympics, and it was actually really hard to get back into training. I love the training in triathlon, but it's something after doing the Olympics that you're just so unmotivated to do anything. I really love running and I really love riding, but when the riding and the running becomes a bit of a chore, that's when you're like, wow, it hasn't, you haven't let it sink in properly yet. You go for an hour run and the first half an hour feels like an eternity, and it shouldn't feel like that. And the last 2 weeks before Boston, it was, and I think everyone was in the same position. I just couldn't get back into the pool. I just did so much swimming and so much dedication into improving in the swim, and then you get to the race and you've ticked off that box, and then you're just like, man, I just don't want to get back in the pool, because you've just done so much work. You just want a bit of time off, and you just want to go and do something you really, really enjoy. And that's what my coaches said as well. Just we won't give you any training, but just go out and train and keep fit, because you've got racing coming up. But the next few weeks, just go out when you want to. Don't go out because you need to. And then that's what we're doing the last couple of weeks, and just trying to get a bit of trying to get that kind of flow back into training. And you have a long taper, and then you do the Olympics and you wait for the relay. So everything, humans are very, I guess, arrhythmic people, to get, for having 3-4 weeks out of a rhythmic pattern is so hard to get back into. And I feel like after actually the race in Boston, it kind of felt like I got my mojo back, and I feel like I'm ready to get back into training and race hard and train hard and get back into it. And it's always hard after the Olympics with the media and all that as well.
Yeah, and lots of people as well. I've seen it with several other athletes. It's been really interesting just chatting to a lot of the other SuperTri athletes here. A lot of people are always asked, kind of 2-3 weeks after Paris, kind of what next? You're going to go for another Olympics, or you're going to go long course? You're going to retire? Or there's all these kind of different things, and it's a bit. I think everybody's a bit like, well, just give me a minute, all right? And I suppose that's probably almost doubly so for you, because you've already dabbled in long course.
Yeah.
You've done well. You've got a lot of options open to you of different directions you could go. But I suppose in fairness, you need some time to actually think, well, what do I want to do? What gets my mojo going again? How do I feel like I really have that passion for what I'm doing?
Yeah, and
like I had all these big plans, like, yeah, I'm going to do all the Super League, I'm going to do some T100s, and I'm going to finish off and smash it at Worlds and Topor, and then like, yeah, for the games, like, shit, like, I don't know if I can be asked doing this. So you have all these ambitions at the start of the year, and then, yeah, the D-Day, finally you finishes, and you cross that finish line, the Olympics, and like a huge weight just drops, and then you're just like, what do I do now? Like, it was just like, and I never actually felt it before, but like, it just actually walked into the race. It was the women's race, and I was like, I'm normally normally pretty relaxed. I'm coming into racing, and just like, yeah, you know, when 5 seconds before the gun, like I'm just like, yeah, like it's go time, and I just change into like an absolute, no, just turn into an animal kind of thing. But like before the race, I was freaking out. Like I was walking, and like I had like I had my mask on and had like a hat on, and people just like started noticing you walking through the crowds, and everyone just looked like, you know, you're walking. The women's race is on. There's like 5 rows of people here, and then everyone turns around and just like is giving you a bit of amp, and they're like, oh shit, it's Hayden, and then you just like, you're kind of I was actually freaking out a bit, and you know, hyperventilating a little bit. I was like, wow, I've never felt that before, like freaking out, just because you put so much work into this one race, and you just don't want to cock it up. And I was like, man, when I got into like the athlete zone, like I just had to take a couple of breaths, because I was proper freaking out. I was like, wow, that was like, I've never experienced that before, but having I felt like potentially that was going to happen, but like talking with like psychologists and stuff, we found a way to kind of get out of that. But man, it was just like, it was full on, like it was kind of a scary moment, but you just got to try and snap out of it and just keep thinking it's just another race, and you just got to perform like you normally do. I mean, you know how to perform, and the training's been going well, and just got to do what you got to do. And yeah, as soon as the gun goes, you just said like, I just turn into a different beast and then go through it. And yeah, that's how it goes, really.
Well, Hayden, it was a fantastic race. You put together a brilliant race and an incredible advert for a sport that we love, and we love to see more people enjoy in the way that we do as participants, as spectators, and had a great rivalry with Alex as well. We hope is going to continue for many years to come and continue to elevate the sport. So well done. You should be really proud of your achievement, and thank you very much for talking to us about it.
Thank you for having me.